The Maryland Made podcast provides timely, relevant, and practical information to empower student athletes to explore their potentials and pursue their passions. We facilitate an inclusive environment for student athletes to refine their leadership, explore professional possibilities, and enact change for their communities. Happy Monday and welcome to the Maryland Made podcast. I'm your host, Daeze, Program Director of Student Athlete Career Development, bringing you this week's episode titled In Between Cultures, Self-Discovery. Today, we're highlighting the experience of two student athletes who are respectively first-generation American-Canadian with their family origin in West Africa. We're going to explore African culture and how these students maneuver through American ideologies as student athletes. In Between Cultures, our guests will highlight their journey of finding their own identity. Joining me today is senior football player Isaac and sophomore women's track and field athlete Tolu. Welcome. Before we begin our conversation, please just give us a brief introduction of your background and why you chose to come to UMD. We'll start with you, Isaac.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're from. Again, my name is Isaac Samson Bunyan. My mother name is Abakeku. That's a Ghanaian name. Sport, football, currently a senior, majored in public policy. And the reason I chose UMD because there's a school down the road. Why not?
Oh, we love having you here, Isaac. Tolu?
Hi, so my name is Tolu Akinduro, full name Tolu Lope Akinduro. My major is public health science. I'm a sophomore on the women's track and field team, and I chose UMD because it's in a Power 5 conference, so I know I was going to get my high level of competition I was looking for, and as well as the school is rigorous, so I know it's going to be a nice academic balance for me.
Happy to have you here too, Tolu. And again, my name is Daeze Dinma. We're all given our full government name, so there's mine right there as well. So today we're going to be talking about culture. Culture is something that shapes who we are as individuals. It aids in setting the foundation for the ideologies that we believe in and illustrate in our everyday lives. These ideologies have a direct impact on how we decide to show up in the world. But what happens when you're stuck in between multiple cultural ideologies? How do you decide what you have to display, what you want to display, and what you don't? First-generation individuals tend to struggle with the battle of cultural identity. Am I American enough? Am I African enough? Am I Canadian enough? The list goes on. Where do I truly belong? All questions we spend our lives trying to answer, and that journey in itself is something so beautiful. So let's get into some of these journeys with these two student athletes. So as we get going, I just want to dive in a little bit to you all's background. So Isaac, can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Yeah, for sure. I was born and raised in Ghana, first time in the United States in 2008. So seven priors before that, I was in Ghana, moved from place to place sometimes, came here, officially stayed in the States in 2015. Nothing crazy, but a loving home back home. My parents are from two different regions of the country. So my mom was from the Baltimore region, while my dad is from the Western region. So two different languages, two different cultures. One that actually, I'll say, poured into who I am today. And yeah, it's small.
I love that. Tolu, same question for you. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Toronto, Canada. I lived there my whole life. I have 3 other siblings. I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger brother. My older brother was actually born in Nigeria, but like shortly after my parents moved to Canada, where we stayed and continue to stay. And yeah, that's just a little bit about my background so far.
Awesome. So just to dive a little bit deeper into both of your respective backgrounds, Isaac, can you tell us a little bit more specifically about Ghanaian culture?
One thing you know about Ghanaians is the hospitality, always willing to help and be around for other people. We usually grow up in small nuclear families like myself, because I grew up in the house of myself, my mom, my sister. My dad was around for a short period of time when he moved to the United States here to set up a foundation for us to come join him here. So a small, knit, close, tight group family that is always willing to help each other. And again, you pour into your home first before you go in elsewhere. And one thing as well, the culture is being always respectful. You can't walk into a room without saying good morning, good afternoon, or saying goodbye. So I say that's a little bit snapshot into the culture.
Yeah, you definitely embody that, Isaac, because you definitely talk to everybody. You're always trying to help out. So that's something that's definitely embedded in who you are as a person today as well. Tolu, same question for you. What can you tell us a little bit about Nigerian culture, Canadian culture, and just growing up in Canada? Like, what was that like for you?
Well, growing up in Canada, it was pretty, I would say like we kind of followed the Nigerian cultures back home as well. Like similar to what Isaac said, the culture is really about respect, being on respects on like greetings. And grew up in the church, so I had that church and faith background all the time, always in the church. Um, my parents always dressed me and my sister up to be like twins, like in the church growing up, traditional wear. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's exciting though. It sounds very similar. For myself, being a first generation Nigerian American, I definitely remember being dressed up. You're essentially the props for your
Yeah.
parents. So I definitely understand that. Moving into more so of your American experience and how you all's backgrounds kind of like tie in together with how you are here now. I have a series of questions to ask you. So the first one is, as a first generation student athlete at the University of Maryland, what motivated you to take this chance and why? And Isaac, we'll start with you.
I mean, I'll say the upbringing is what motivated me because every day, I mean, my mom and my dad did all they could today for a better tomorrow. So that was my main key motivation right there, just to try and keep pushing and keep doing much more. And I'll say it, going to the University of Maryland currently, it's like back to the upbringing as well. You go to the church down the road, you go to school down the road. So you always point to the community that's currently present and close by because if you're wounded, who are you going to look to? You can't look across the pond. You have to look to those who are close to you right there. And I say that's one big thing about the culture. And even adding on to what we just said about the culture was the fact of my mom actually made dresses while she was here, and she actually sewed for us. So she kind of tried to match my sister and I. And we kind of always loved her making us new clothes, new attire, and to have a bracelet out she made for me as well. So it was like a really cool thing. And it's like always pointing to the people around you and just, I mean, pushing forward with them.
Awesome. I love that. Listen, tell your mom to make us some bracelets. Bring them to UMD. I'm sure that they would be a hot commodity.
Yeah.
Tolu, same question for you.
Um, so I guess what motivated me was my parents, just because like I knew that the track or like the balance between a student and an athlete was not really like recognized back home or was not really like encouraged. So here I always tried to make sure that I work hard and play hard and like try my best to just find that balance. And like I know that since I want to work in the healthcare, so no, it's possible for me to do that as well as pursuing my career in track and try to reaching a high level. So I try to do that. I use them as a motivation, and yeah.
And I mean, to add on to that, one thing I kind of forgot was the fact of when I first came here, my dad, he's been here for a while before we came, but he wasn't really sure of the American system and how things work. So he was like, hey, I'm here to learn. Let's same way you are here to learn as well. So let's push each other and just motivate each other to go along the way. And that kind of even led into my fact of playing football, as he didn't even know what football was. When we mentioned football, they thought it was soccer. So I told him back home I'm playing football. They said, "Oh, what are you playing? Are you a goalie? Are you a striker?" I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. It's a whole different sport." So him having motivated me right there to just push and go and try new things because he said he didn't want me to play football, but he said go and try it out. I'm here to support you, and if I'm back, I want you to support me. Same with the academics because I don't think I grew up in a household where my parents said, because you're a male, you have to be this, you have to be that. They just said, go out there and explore. And then I'm here now currently majoring in policy. So, yeah.
I love that. Listen, yeah, and y'all two chime in. If something comes to you in the middle of this, like again, this is just an ebb and flow. We're just having a conversation about your experience and your identity. So thank you for both adding that. Tolu, we'll start with you for this next question. Were there any US customs that took you by surprise? And if so, what were they? And why were they surprising for you?
The US custom, I guess just coming here, just like the emphasis on play hard, work hard. Just because like back in Canada, I think it just because like I was more of like the higher level athlete, like I was surrounded by non-athletes and just like they're very used to like either working or either like just like partying or playing hard. So coming here, I was like, wow, like there's like a balance and there's other like student athletes just like me. Like, so that surprised me, like in a good way though, because I really like that balance. And it's like, it kind of motivates me to continue to work hard and balance, maintain like good grades as well as train hard, make sure like I'm pushing through every workout. And yeah, so I really like that coming here.
But yeah, the American sports model is definitely something different than across other countries. So
Yeah.
just how they prioritize both the academic and the athletic is something that's really unique and cool to play and get education at a very high level.
Yeah.
Isaac, same question for you. Were there any customs that took you by surprise?
So the funniest custom for me would be the food because I grew up in a 3 meal household. Sometimes two, you eat breakfast, a heavy breakfast, or heavy lunch. Come back for dinner. That was about it. So come here to learn about the little snacks in between, the little suppers. I'm like, what are all these stuff? So it kind of transitioned. I mean, understanding the fact that I'm a student athlete here playing football, a sport that requires constant burning of energy. So I'm like, I need to replace my energy right now. So if I go home right now, like who is this? Who is this me right here? Because I'm much more bigger, much taller. It's like all this food that's going into me. But I think I'll be the exact same way eating the banku and fufu back home, but it's a little different right now, switching the meals up. So the food was one of the biggest, I'd say, cultural surprises. But yeah,
I can definitely see that. You all burn so many calories and you got a lot going on, and you have to make sure you have energy to get through the day, to get to practice, study hall, class, and then trying to be social and have fun with yourselves as college students. So I definitely get it and understand. With that being said, too, are there any ways in which you all try to stay connected to your cultural origins while at Maryland?
I'll take the answer first because I think when coming to University of Maryland, I was actually part of a program called IEP, and I still am, Incentive Awards Program. And that actually afforded me the way to start as a walk-on athlete in University of Maryland. And in that program, it was so diverse that I was able to actually meet another Ghanaian. So just seeing him throughout the day, we speak our language, speak to him here today and go like back and forth. So he actually keeps me tied back to my roots and my origin. And on the football team as well, I mean, my first 2 years, we had Burko, who was Ghanaian as well. So kind of had that little Ghanaian link right there. And then I say, the football team, although big, we have a lot of Africans in the team that kind of go back and forth. We'll kind of share that culture. And even some individuals from the Caribbean is that and they have a similar culture. So we actually go back and forth and we understand how households are. We kind of make fun of each other going back and forth. So it's like, I'll say that's one of the key ways. And the best way is calling back home, is making a phone call back home and see how people are doing and see how things are going. And I'm so grateful that my sister was actually able to go back home this past summer. So she brought a bunch of the food that we have from my kids growing up. And that was a really, really touching moment right there because I missed the food back home. So, yeah.
I love that. How does that make you feel having other teammates who had similar backgrounds, either being from Africa or the Caribbean?
I'll say, I mean, it's big because it's like you're speaking to someone that's already your brother and your friend. You like, we didn't grow up in the same household, but we have such a similar experience. It's like, I know how you think now. So I know how we could all operate together. And it allows us to bond and be cohesive at a much more higher level. We can play much faster on the field and we understand how things are going to work. So it's key. It's key. I mean, if they were even African or Caribbean, is the fact of that they're willing to learn my culture and I'm willing to learn their culture. That's one of the biggest things that makes us all together and play as one.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Tolu, same question for you. Are there any ways in which you try to stay connected?
Yeah, for sure. So here it's kind of similar to what Isaac said again. My roommate, she's Caribbean, so we kind of like make fun of each other, bounce off of each other's like backgrounds, learning new things, learning new language. I taught them a few phrases, which is funny, and she taught
What
me
did
a
you
few
teach
as
them?
well. I was just, well, I don't want to. It's like I just like say like just like random stuff in like Yoruba. They're like, "What are you saying?" And it's just kind of funny, like greetings and stuff. Um, and as well as I actually recently had like a family friend come visit me. She brought me some jollof rice and some like nice home cooked meals, which was fun because like I haven't got that yet here. So like, and there's also like even near where we stay, there's like a restaurant down the road, like African restaurant. I haven't been there yet, but like I'm definitely gonna open to go there and get some food. So I try as much to stay connected to my Nigerian culture just because it's what I was used to, it's my roots. So I try not to forget it. And
Oh, I love that. Okay, so give a plug. What's the name of the African restaurant down the street? Do you know it?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know the name.
There's three.
I'm not sure. I haven't.
There's three in the area. The one that's close to College Park is called Jodine's. Down the road, up a little bit, it's a Ghanaian one called Cape Coast Cuisines, and a little bit further is Rahama's restaurant. There's the three that I usually know. I actually had some food from there yesterday, so it's kind of funny.
Listen,
Yeah,
Isaac, the next time you go, invite us. Don't be selfish.
good thing.
All right, Tolu. And then my next one follow for you was, give us some greetings, Miss Yoruba. Guess that teach us how to say hello
I
or
mean,
goodbye.
bawoni is like hello, ma, and then goodbye. I guess like goodbye. It's goodbye again. Um, I forgot, but I say bawoni a lot, and eshe for thank you. All of this is like Yoruba, so yeah, out of like the different languages, and yeah, that's like two that I go a lot.
All right, Isaac, tell us how to say hello or something else in your native language.
Uh, so it's kind of tricky because I come from two different backgrounds. My mom speaks Ewer and my dad speaks Fanti. Man, the main language spoken in Ghana is Tree. So then the simplest phrase that goes around is the Akwaba, meaning welcome, or good morning, Mima Omache, thank you, Medase, and stuff like that. So yeah.
Oh, I love it. Listen, go around telling people, have them say good morning and thank you to you in that language. It's beautiful for both of you. See, I'm Ikpe, so it's like a subgroup of Igbo. So I'm not Igbo, but my name is Igbo, but we're a subgroup. So you already have an upper edge against me because I get made fun of because I cannot speak the language like at all. So y'all already have the upper hand on me in those regards. But I can understand it. I can always understand when my parents are talking about me. So I can't speak it. But I can definitely understand when something's being said about me. Yeah, because growing up in my house, my parents they only spoke English to me and my brothers. So for the most part, they kept it true and through to themselves too. Where it's like, when they're having conversations by themselves, they're speaking the native language like Bay, and they are just doing what they do. So similar to you, Tolu, grew up in a very traditional Nigerian household and dressing up and going to all the family events, even if you didn't necessarily want to. So but that's the beauty of it. All right, Tolu, I'm going to start with you for this one. What are three things that people don't know about you, your culture, or your home country?
Um, I guess, I guess for my home country, first one is obviously they have the best food. Um, I guess my second one is I guess people don't actually understand how like diverse the Nigerian culture is, which like they're actually really diverse. And also there's like over 500 spoken languages there. So that's probably the top three that I would go with.
Yeah, definitely. I have heard an abundance of different languages, and for the most part, people only talk about two main tribes, Igbo and Yoruba, and there
Yeah.
are just so many more that are a part of it, and it's just like we can't forget about them, but definitely understood. And you're right, we do have the best food, but I'll pass it off to Isaac. So,
I mean, I'll come in and say I think not. Ghana actually has the best food. I mean, it's improving over and over again. So I'll say Ghana the best food. But three things I'll say. One thing that I run through a lot, talking to people that I know aware of African culture. The first thing is the location of where Ghana is. It's like we're right, literally, we're actually the center of the whole world because the center of the meridian, I've got the line, post meridian and then the past meridian lines they pass right through Ghana and like we're right in the center right there. So that's one key thing. Think of Ghana, we're in the middle of the world right there. Another key thing as well is the fact of our food, how diverse our food is as well. And then the other key thing is we're surrounded by three francophone countries. So during our young preschool years, we actually required to learn French, and we know a little bit of French, how to just say my name, je m'appelle Isaac or something like that. So learn a little bit of French, and then we were conned by the British, so we speak English. Coming here my first time, I started spell color with a U, and I got looked like I'm weird. I'm like, that's the right way to spell it. That's the Queen's language right there. So it's kind of funny. So that people are surprised that I'm able to speak English, but I'm like, we learned the good English, so that's what I'm saying.
Oh, they're gonna come for you, Isaac. You just said good English.
Let them come. Let them come.
They're gonna come for you, Isaac. Yeah, I love it definitely because I know, and Tolu, you can relate to the main language in Nigeria too is English, and
Yeah.
so most people come knowing how to speak English. It might be pidgin, it might be a little broken, but they definitely know how to speak English. So that's awesome. I think going into that now, we talk about like, you all spoke on coming here, the benefits of coming here, and we just kind of want to do a little bit of a deep dive, like what are some of the challenges? So Isaac, we'll start with you for this one. What do you think have been some of your biggest challenges being a first generation Ghanaian, and what does that look like for you?
I'll say coming here as a first generation Ghanaian college student, I'll say, it's just a fact of understanding the system, trying to find your groove, I'll say. Because I came here, my first academic year was in eighth grade, and it was a year that was like a big transition year into high school. So having to adjust and find my way around, understand how classes work. Because before, it's like you do a test, you fail, you get into punishment some way. So understand here that the fact of not doing so good is enforce a positive reinforcement, like, hey, listen, you see how things go down the line, and understanding the fact of no question is a dumb question, and then just being open to that. And along the lines as well as the fact of no one knows everything. So just being open to learn more and more. And coming from middle school to high school was a fact of the different tiers of classes. Because I thought you go to an English class, it's a regular English class. So I was actually kind of grateful enough in my middle school year and then my first years of high school was that two of my English teacher, my history in middle school and then my English teacher in high school, they kept sending a letter to my dad saying that Isaac doesn't need to be in this class. He's above our level. Move into this class, so and so. And I'm like, I thought I was doing good, okay, but then they said I'm doing better than okay. And I think I realized that that's kind of going back to my upbringing in Ghana and how the education system is so rigorous. So when I came here, it's like doing the bare minimum was okay. So I try and excel for doing above more than that, and then just adapting to that, and then understanding the way things go. And I say one key thing, and then adapting and being a good first generation college student was the fact of coming from a background where, as a young child, you're always told to listen and listen a lot, and I kind of carried that with me. So I think adapting and overcoming certain challenges along the ways was just being a observant learner. So even my first year in the football team, I never really spoke much, never really knew what everybody sounded like. So it was just being quiet and being attentive and being observant to what things happen allows me to actually navigate my way and overcome certain challenges and obstacles.
Yeah, I love that. That's very true. Like you never really think about how sometimes the culture that you grew up in can affect or impact how you go about like doing everything else. So it's just really cool that, you grew up very observant and a really good listener, and that's translated over into who you are today and some of your biggest strengths of the type of person that you are, because you are a really good listener, you are observant, you speak, you're kind. So I think that just translates over well into what you want to do forward moving. So that's awesome. Tolu, same one for you. What are the most challenging things about being a first generation Canadian student athlete?
Um, I guess for me, I think it's also like the transition period, especially for me, like coming from a different country and then moving here for like my college. Because I came here in January for my first semester. So just like coming into not like not always going to be seeing my parents or just like the morning, because I know we used to have like we would have family prayers in the morning like before each of us would start our day. So just like doing all of that on my own now, like remembering all those values and still trying to maintain that while also adding the transition part here of like being a new student athlete here and also being on like the down end because obviously I was like a freshman now. So I'm not like a senior and I have to like get used to the rules. And like for the track aspects, just having to wake up the morning weights, not used to all that back home. So just getting accustomed to all of those new like things that I would have to do. So it was a challenge, but like I would say like this year especially, I'm like fitting into it more. Yeah, so I said that's probably it.
That's really cool though. I love that you try and keep the values that you had to at home and incorporate them. Do you do it with your roommate? Kayla's your roommate,
Um,
right?
my room is Ashley and Maya and
Okay.
Nyla. Yeah. I do it on my own just because like I wake up at different times. We wake up at different times before class. I try to like do my prayers and kind of my acclamations before my morning class. And usually my morning class, my first one is probably around like 9 a.m. So I try to do that maybe at 8 or 8:30. So to get the day started. And yeah.
I love that. And I think you mentioned something great, which I would love for both of you to hit on, like, and take a second, but what do you think your top like two or three values are that you take from your respective cultures that you bring and you are embodying here at the university?
Uh, if I'm to touch on that, I'll say the biggest thing that comes first of all is family. Without them, that's one thing I truly value a lot. And then with the family, one thing that comes along as another value is time. And I show the fact of growing up at a young age, my dad came over here to come and set things up for us. So we didn't have time to spend with my dad. The time was spent with our mom a lot. So just pouring into her and knowing how she is and her pouring to me, trying to build our bond to be much more stronger. So coming to University of Maryland, making it a family and investing time into the family you have here was one key thing as well. And I think the last one, this one was the thing my brother told me, was saying that no situation is permanent. And it kind of ties to the fact of every day is evolving. Every day, everything's happening for a reason. So again, with the time you're spending, that time is not going to be permanent. It's going to go, it's a different time that's coming around. So especially the family and time you have around, no situation is permanent. So make every moment count. So that's three of the key core values I think I hold close to me and I kind of embody in the sport of football and my teammates around me and everyone as a whole.
I love that. Tolu, how about you?
For mine, I would probably say kind of living in the present is really important. Um, I guess for me, just because like just dealing also with like my track and academics, like I used to always put like a lot of pressure on myself trying to maintain that balance. And honestly, I just think like the best part is honestly just being able to just live in the present, even like with my public health. I'm not sure like what path exactly I want to take in the healthcare field, but like just continuing like to learn more of my interests and explore like new things every single day is going to be helping me and is like key part of continuing to kind of like achieve or find my future career path. So living in the present and I guess also just family as well. Family is like really important. Like even now, like my siblings, I'm like the third person to go off to college. So like we're all in like different, my sister's in California, my brother's in Toronto, I'm in Maryland. So like we all still try to hold that bond. My little brother's also still in Canada. We all have like this family group chat, which we try to connect in like every day. And then my parents as well. Like sometimes my parents try to connect us all together to even try to maintain a family prayer before we go to bed. So like we try to do that just to keep like that family aspect alive. Yeah.
I love that. That's really great. Thank you both for sharing. I think it made me think about too myself. Family's definitely huge for me too. So again, my parents are first gen. I'm first gen, Nigerian-American. My parents immigrated from Nigeria sometime in like the 70s or 80s. I don't know, one of them. But either way, they came for college. And so you know, there's only five of us. And so like you, similar to you, Tolu, my middle brother is in Germany right now. He coaches American football in Germany, and he's really loving that. My oldest brother is here in Baltimore, and then of course me working at Maryland. But before I got here, I was living in Connecticut. So we're just typically all over. I think because of the sacrifice that my parents made, that we're all okay with just kind of like traveling and being in new places and doing new things and just kind of like adapting. I feel like it's just kind of a part of us at this point. And then I think the biggest value that I've taken from my family is just being community based, and by that just like giving back. My mom, our family is building a hospital back in Nigeria where we're from, and just wanting to do all types of things to make sure that we're giving the quote unquote American dream back home in Nigeria as well, with proper health care and resources and stuff like that. And so I didn't necessarily get the medical field gene, but I did get the giving back gene. And so I think that's a big part of why I do what I do too, is just finding different ways to give back to student athletes so that they can find their full potential. So I love that. Values definitely, they hold a different weight in what you do, especially when they come from a cultural upbringing and background. So I think that's really awesome. And I think as we continue tying into culture, like what does your cultural background play in your choice of your academic pursuits? Because we all know the stereotypes, we all know the stigmas. They say Africans, we have the best education. You go off, you be lawyers, you be doctors, you are everything under the sun. Like what does your cultural backgrounds play in your academic choice? Tolu, you can start.
Well, for me, I would say that my culture background, I don't think it has too much of an effect of like my academic choice, just because like I was like I grew up in like a household. I was lucky enough to grow up in a household where like my parents weren't like the medical or lawyer field wasn't forced upon me or my siblings. They're kind of more let us find our interest and let us find our way, and they'll just like support for the ride, which like we're very appreciative on that. And I think that also like helps me as well as like a person, just to be able to find my own path and find my own ways. And yeah, they kind of just come for support, and which I'm very grateful to them for that.
Yeah, I definitely shared similar experiences. It didn't get forced on me. It was like a strong nudge, but it definitely wasn't forced.
Yeah.
How about you, Isaac?
It's very similar. Growing up, I had no clue what I wanted to do, but there was no really big push to go here or go there. I think if I grew up in a house where my dad was actually there, I'd have had more of a push to go in a certain direction. Because later on down the line, I spoke to him and he said, "Oh, I thought you'd be an engineer down the line." And the funny thing was, my first flight to the States here in 2008, we got invited up to the cockpit, and my dream goal was to end up being a pilot someday. It's still my goal right now, so I'm still working towards that eventually. So coming to the University of Maryland, I actually chose to major in engineering initially, aerospace engineering. So my dad was, "Oh my God, my son's gonna be an engineer." So he was happy about that going along the way, but then he was still supportive of the fact of, "Are you sure that's what you want to do?" Because he wants to be supportive of what I want to do. So he was big on like going out there and learning, trying new things and learning new things. So I actually kind of dabbled and dabbled in different majors for a bit before ending up on policy. And he kind of saw, he's like, "Wow, it's funny that I chose policy because back home he kind of established NGOs before he came to the States here that kind of trying to help kids at risk kids, at risk youth kids, mostly in the northern part of Ghana. So it kind of seems that, oh, we doing policy right now, trying to enact change in policy, kind of tied into what he wants to do. And I kind of volunteered and interned with the different nonprofit organizations. So it's kind of funny to him how it's kind of coming back in full circle to his path. Although it wasn't forced down my throat, but it's like, hey, it's a nice thing right there.
Yeah, everything typically does come full circle. I'm a firm believer in that. My background is in accounting, but I try to help out my family as much as I can with like numbers and looking at information that my mom does for like buying things and stuff like that. So it's like everything that we do comes full circle to what our parents may have wanted us to do, but they didn't even necessarily know. But I definitely think that that's definitely important that both of your families allowed you to figure out what it is that you want to do and not force you into the stereotypicals of, hey, this is typically what we pride ourselves on doing and becoming and stuff like that, but they were just supportive. And I think that helps with like you understanding who you are as a person, understanding your identity, where you want to go, and how you want to get there. So this question is kind of just based off of the combo we just had just now, but like growing up, I always kind of consider myself, especially being in the US as a first gen, I was like, I didn't necessarily knew where I belonged or like fit in. So what are some of your thoughts on yourselves here in the US, just given your backgrounds and stuff?
Like in terms of how we fit in.
I always consider myself like a cool misfit. I'm like, hey, I have some parts of me that people are like, hey, Daisy, that was pretty African of you. Or, hey, Daisy, like, what? Sometimes my cousins are like, oh, I don't know, that's the American. And they're like, oh, you're too American. So I find myself like in this like weird middle place sometimes of like, hey.
I say to answer that question, I kind of got that a few times. So before football games, we are given an assignment to kind of prepare a report on the team. So whenever I read it out loud to my teammates, kind of my accent comes really, really heavy right there. And it's so funny because kind of make jokes about that because I'm very like, guys, we're gonna do this today, but at the end of the day, we're gonna punch them in the mouth and do this, and then that's when the accent comes out and it gets the team going right there. But I wouldn't say I felt more like a misfit in my opinion because lucky for me, back home in Ghana, I was able to go to really decent and good enough schools where I got to see a diversity of backgrounds. So it was like I was aware that it won't be people like me everywhere I go. And then coming to a school, especially in Prince George's County, going to Bucklards and High Point High School, those were two like melting pots right there. So I got to see a whole variety of different individuals. So I never felt like a misfit because it's like we are all different right here. No one here is the majority or the minority. So we're literally all here to survive. So why not help each other out right there? So I'll say that's how I kind of fit into the scenario of things.
I love that. Tolu, what about you?
I feel like for me, at times it just seems like it's kind of I feel like kind of out of place just because like also like from Canada, just different words as well. Like I remember I used to always I get made fun of over here for saying this. I'd be saying washroom instead of bathroom. And it's like it's like what but like other than that, um I feel like I don't really like feel too out of place like in the sense of like the social aspect just because like I feel like all the diversities and like the different cultures around kind of like helps me and it makes it like better like it makes the conversations that we have like better and like more educational and yeah so I don't really feel like out of place in that aspect.
I was just even add
Good.
on to that. One thing that kind of read along the line was going to school back home in Ghana. One thing they kind of said was school is school and home life is home life. You can never cross the two together. So coming here, understand the fact of the home life supports the school life and the school life supports the home life, kind of allowing me to bridge the things together to actually be a much more better individual, I'll say. So that, I'll say, has allowed me to kind of fit perfectly in between and to kind of being socially aware of what's happening and how to actually intertwine both sides. Yeah.
I love that. I think you all kind of answered one of my next questions that I'd ask you, but just if you want to add to it, how has growing up and living in these multiple cultures and experiences kind of like shaped your perspective of like the world and how you go about living in it and, how you show up in it?
Uh, I guess I'll take that first. I'm kind of really grateful to grow up in the household I grew up in, especially in a household where, I mean, you come from an African household, a Ghanaian household. My mom loved country music a lot. So you get a lot of country music right there. So just listen to the songs right there expands your mind a lot. And coming to live with my dad as well, he loves country music as well. But then he used to play a lot of the old African hit songs in the car on that to Baltimore. And then growing up right now, my sister loves a whole like the songs from everywhere. Like I'm like, it's a whole combination of different songs. And it's like I'm just an example of just all these things coming together into one big pot. And I'm grateful enough as well to have family in different locations. I have some family in Italy as well as France, as well as Germany. And currently my brother actually is in London himself. So it's like having family there and having family here and back in Ghana. It's like I see how just realizing the fact that we're all in different structures and different things, we're all striving towards the same goal. So our upbringing keeps us on track right there to just pursue and achieve what we can and just keep going.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely having those different perspectives and growing up and seeing different things, different music, it expands your mind. I think that's why I'm a big proponent of traveling. I love to travel. I love when people travel because you get outside of what you consider your norm.
Yeah.
And I think that helps make you a better person and understand people and appreciate culture more than the average person, for sure. How about you,
For
Tolu?
For me, I think it helped me kind of value diverse perspectives even more because, yeah, just growing up, even like growing up in the Canadian and Nigerian like life life or background, I was able to kind of like mesh the two together. And like so like my lifestyle is kind of different from like the average Nigerian family or like the average just like Canadian family. We kind of like meshed the two get together, and I feel like that also like worked out in my favor just to learn about like how to grow up, the mannerisms, like how to behave. Like especially now that I'm on my own, just knowing how to like figure out my way on my own is like also something that is really good from all the diverse perspectives back home. And just like it also makes me value like culture and like learning new things, learning that just because I was accustomed or used to doing this, that doesn't mean like you will, and that's okay. So I just like, yeah, I feel like it really helped me value diversity and different perspectives more.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the both of you. So I feel like I had a good combination too of like everything in my household was Nigerian to the T, to the food that we ate, to if we hosted people, I was helping as the first daughter and the only daughter of cleaning up the plates, taking the plates away. If somebody needs water, they're calling me and I'm coming from the other room to go get waters for everybody, like things like that. I know it's reminiscent for the both of you, huh? You remember those days. And so that, and then coming outside into the rest of the world in Baltimore. And it's just like, it's just two completely different worlds. But I feel like both of those worlds merged together help make me such a unique person in a sense of like, I do have traditional ways to me, customs to me, but then I also understand the lifestyle of being from Baltimore and understand like, hey, these are the things that are important to Baltimore. And then finding the parts and pieces that I love from both cultures and merging them into one. And I definitely think that that's what helps make first gen Americans, Canadian Americans, Nigerian Americans, Nigerian Canadians like special is that we're finding a way to merge a multitude of cultures into one person, which may come off a little bit different for some people sometimes, but it's just a really beautiful thing in my opinion. All right. So as we wind down in this talk, if you could give one piece of advice to the next first generation athlete coming to the University of Maryland, what would you tell them? Tolu, we'll start with you.
I guess I would tell them to um find themselves like without kind of being influenced by like other perspectives or other cultures, or and be okay like being your culture, like kind of like for me, like the Nigerian, I haven't always like embraced my culture, kind of like growing up, like I feel like high school it was more of the time for me coming out and actually like understanding my roots and like embracing it. So I feel like embracing your culture is really important because that's what makes you, like you're your own identity, and you shouldn't have to conform to like the, I guess the different cultures around or like the more like known cultures around. Like so I feel like, yeah, kind of just holding true to your roots and like your cultures. And yeah, that's probably my advice.
I guess for my advice, it kind of just being a first generation college student, not even student athlete, is the fact of no situation is permanent. And coming from an African background, you kind of think of the fact of we think like it's do or die. That's what we think of it. So we're trying to push through and power through everything, but no situation is permanent. The fact of you live to see tomorrow. So push through and do what you can, but don't overload yourself. And then one saying that keeps ringing in my head is the fact of doing simple better. Because the fact that you could do the easiest things to the best of your best ability, they add up, and then eventually you're gonna be who you truly are. So just stay true to yourself. And the fact of being an athlete, especially now being a student athlete, adding the athlete component to it is the fact of, I mean, one thing I realized in the recruiting process in football, we went down to visit at Hampton, and then the head coach at Hampton was so happy to see me. He's like, Isaac the Great. You come, Isaac the Great. You know, right now you're representing the whole of Ghana right now. And I never actually understood the fact of what he was saying, but it hits me the fact that like there's not so many of us that are actually going out there to try new things. So you actually represent a whole new generation of people that are similar to you or just like you. So the fact of literally being yourself and being true to yourself and voicing your opinion out, because some people want to know what Ghana is. Because I talk to some people that take African American studies class and they come and ask me about Ghana, learn the fact that we're called Gold Coast, and they ask why are we called Gold Coast. So it's like people want to know about your certain cultures. So just be true to yourself, open up, and then I mean one biggest thing as well that I would say being an African or first generation college student, always take the food with you along the way because I kind of pushed our nutritionists to add jollof fries to our meals just so the team could try and see how it tastes like a little bit. So push that food going and it keeps you true, keeps you grounded.
I love that. Thank you both for both of those answers because it definitely just made me kind of reminisce too. Tolu, I think you had a great point about staying true. I think for me, myself too, there was a point where I was just like, I didn't embrace it as much as I do today. And I'm just like, girl, why didn't you? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, I think there's nothing more beautiful than being able to embrace your true culture. And so for me, like, my name, my spelling, the meaning behind my name. Like I love saying those things. And then for you, Isaac, like definitely another point that really hits home. So for me, I got to represent Nigeria on the national stage. I got to be a part of the Nigerian national team for basketball. And like just to have Nigeria across my chest, like it was a feeling like I just never thought that I would experience and kind of like understanding like, hey, I was the first person from my family's tribe to ever make it to that level, which is mind blowing to me. So it's just like, our family's from River States, Nigeria, and it's just like, hey, where they're from, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the first. So like it like blew up on Facebook for like my family and stuff like that because no one from the village, like, and we grew up like, truly the dirt hut homes, like stuff like that. And it's just kind of like to have somebody make it to that next level. Sometimes I don't even think I understand the magnitude of the things that I do and the impact that it makes on family back home. So definitely to cherish your achievements and understand that you're definitely paving the way for more people and more generations to come. Absolutely. Tolu, did you want to add something? You look like you wanted to.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap it up, now it's time for us to learn more about your interests outside of sports through a little section that we like to call rapid fire. So I'll ask you a question and you'll respond with the first thing that comes to mind. Tolu, you'll answer first and then followed by Isaac for each of them. All right. The first one is, what is your favorite cultural dish?
Definitely jollof rice. Too
I
easy?
say,
Yeah, definitely jollof rice.
I say red. It's a beans collection with red oil and plantains and some gari.
Okay. I'm going fufu. I'm a big fufu girl. Give me some fufu and goosey soup and I'm happy. All right. What's your favorite part about your country?
Um, I would say the people. Yeah, the people. They're very like comforting and they're very like I feel like the people kind of like represent us as oh they're not like open to new people, but like Nigerian culture they're actually very open and very like welcoming to like different cultures. So I'll say like that part.
Mine as a whole probably be the fashion. I like the kente wear. I try to have hockey on game days too. It's a little kente design. It's a really cool thing, fashion and culture. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think I would say my favorite part, I would say probably they're funny. The people, they're hilarious. I don't know how many Nigerian people you have ran into, but they are comical. Their word choice, their selection and how they say things, they will let you know how they are feeling. So I think I would say the people as well. And then next one, your favorite Afrobeats artist or song, or if you feel inclined, both, but one or the other.
Um, they actually have a lot of good artists. I'll probably go with Burner Boy though. Just it's probably gonna change because like there's so many like rising artists as well, but like Burner Boy for now.
For me, I like EL, a Ghanaian artist. Spirit song of his is All Black. It's a really nice song. It's kind of like a song of all the big Ghanaian artists, all black. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking either Burna Boy or I really enjoy Davido. His music is just, he's a classic. I feel like he's timeless in those regards. It's pretty timeless. So I want to thank you both for participating in such a great conversation today. Before we wrap up, do you want to share with our listeners how people can follow you or ask you for updates or just reach out to you? You want to give out your socials, any plugs you want to give out for people to connect with you?
Okay.
Well, my Instagram. Oh,
you got it. You got it.
okay.
You got it.
Okay. My Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram, but my name is tolu.akinduro. So yeah, just my first and my last name. So yeah.
I kept it pretty simple as well. It's just the I and Bunyan, so I Bunyan, kind of keeping it simple on everything. So yeah.
All right. And then this is my last question off script again, but what do your names have meanings?
My name, Isaac Samson Abakeku Bunyan. Isaac's meaning laughter, Samson strength. Abakeku doesn't necessarily have a much more deeper meaning, but in Ghana, the day you're born is touted. The day you're born, so before you're actually named for your naming ceremony, you already have a name. So I was born on a Wednesday, so my name on a Wednesday is Kweku. But then coming from my dad's culture, being from the Western region, being Fanti, they have an Abakeku, so that's what they pronounce it on their side. So just basically meaning born on Wednesday, and then my Bunyan is an English last name, so I'm not really sure the meaning behind that. So yeah.
For me, well, I guess I only really know my first name. So my first full name is Tolu Lope, and that means to God be the glory. So which is why I like really big on faith, and like all my achievements, I just make sure to always like give like all my successes and all my achievements back to God. So yeah.
I love that. And then mine is a Daeze Uwetu Alezi Dinma, and my first name means princess, my middle name means Faith, and then my last name means daughter of a king. So essentially Princess Faith Princess. So I definitely understand, and I love that. I just love the meanings. I meant to ask that a little earlier, but thank you both for joining us. To all of our Maryland student athletes, here are a few upcoming events. Our podcast drops every Monday at 9 a.m. And then we also have the mentor kickoff September 27th this upcoming week as well. If you need anything else, please feel free to drop by and stop by the Maryland Made team. We're happy to help and talk to you for more. Thank you again, both Isaac and Tolu.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.